Hello, hello. I'm Jeanette from Jeanette Knits, and welcome to my live about the yoke meditation series. Hi. I'm just gonna give a minute for more people to join, and then I'll dive right in. So glad to see you. Why don't I tell you what I'm wearing? I am wearing design from a couple of years ago. That is called the Refreshing Tee, and it's a seamless top-down half brioche raglan t-shirt in fingering weight yarn. It's perfect for the summer that's coming up, but we're still in spring, I suppose, which is also good for sorry, trying to read comments at the same time as keeping my train of thought is always a challenge. Not sure how other people can do it so smoothly. But all right, I guess I can start the official topic of today. Hello. Which is talking about the Yoke Meditation Series #1 sweater. I don't have the sweater with me because I have gifted to this wonderful lady, girl who is modeling a lot of my sweaters, and it just looks so great on her, much more than on me. So I, as a token of appreciation, I have left it with her, and I think she was very happy about that. I mean, she looks incredible in all clothes, but this one in particular goes really well. But I hope you can imagine what it looks like from this photo. You might have seen it already on my Instagram. All I have with me is the swatch, which I created, wow, yeah, it might have been like nearly 2 years ago. And talking about inspiration, it all started with the yarn. The yarn that I'm using is, I have this much left of the contrast color. It's a hand spun Polwarth silk, and it was in multiple colors, and I spun it and as a 2-ply, and it became this really beautiful gradient between pinks and greens. I'm not sure how good you can see that in this photo. So I was really curious to see how that would knit up, and I wanted some color work, stranded color work design with fairly substantial blocks of color. So not an intricate design, but like bold and striking, to just show off this yarn. And it's the first design that I that came to me inspired by mandala art, which is yeah, something that you draw and meditate over, hence the whole name for the series, Yoke Meditation Series. I have a story about why this one is coming out now when the second one was already released earlier this year. It's because I got the body done and I was stuck on sleeves, but I had so little of the contrast color left that I was afraid to learn that I'm gonna run out, and it's not very easy to get the same yarn when you've yeah, I ordered it from Wound Up Fiber Arts in the States, and so it would have taken a long time to ship, and I would have to spin it and hope for the best that it's the same weight and the same texture. So yeah, I was sort of being a coward, and I put the project off for a long time. Until finally I decided to bite the bullet and finish it, and yes, this is what was left of the contrast color. I was right to worry. So the contrast color is that, and the I chose to use the something from my stash as the main color, and it's the Nutiden yarn, which is unspun. And yeah, it's an acquired taste to knit with unspun yarn. It's very easy to break, look, ta-da! But what it creates, it creates this really light and feather-like fabric that you know, this sweater looks, it's very oversized and quite, you know, there's a lot of fabric, but it's so light. I think the whole thing just weighs about 300 grams. I'm not sure what that is in other metrical systems, but yeah. So that's the pro side of the unspun yarn. But I think I'm jumping ahead of time. So inspiration is all about meditating over anything you want to meditate, and this yoke is just that. The gauge is where am I? 22 stitches and 30 rows in 10 centimeter 4-inch square, and that means that it's for a sport/DK weight yarn. I used sport weight yarn, the hand spun and the Nutiden where came out sportish weight. So yeah, I used sport weight, but the gauge allows for someone who's not a fan of drapey fabrics as much as I am, to use DK as well. And obviously it's designed to be very oversized. So there's about 20 to 35 centimeters, that is 8 to 14 inches positive ease around the bust. But I think we've had great success in the testing team where people were going size lower to get tighter fit. So I just got a question, yay. The question is, when is it coming out? And it's coming out next Wednesday. So yeah, very, very, very soon. Just a few days away. I can't wait to share it with you. Yeah, so it's depending on which yarn you use, it can be a summer sweater or a winter sweater. So yeah, I'm as long as you meditate over the yoke, it should be all great. I was using 3.25 millimeter needles. Sorry, that is US size 3 for the main fabric, for the main body, and for ribbing I used a size smaller, so US 2 or 2.75 millimeter needle. Circulars, and let's talk about sizing. It comes out in my usual 8 size range with 10 centimeter, approximately 10 centimeter increment around the bust. So the finished measurements, so before I go into the finished measurements, there's a question if it can be knitted in one strand of Nutiden. Yes, that's what I used, just one strand. 2 strands of Nutiden would have created a much thicker and, oh my goodness, such warm fabric that, yeah, it would be nuts to release it in springtime. But I used one strand, so it was almost see-through in some places. You know, if you worked with unspun yarn before, the consistency isn't its strong point. So yeah, sometimes it's very thin and you have to like double it up. but I really enjoyed to mix it up and experience that. Back to sizing. So the finished measurements around chest is from 98 centimeters, that is almost 40 inches, and 176.5 centimeters, that is 70.5 inches. So there should be hopefully something that suits a wide range of body types. There is no shaping. And yes, so I will talk about the construction. It's worked seamlessly from the top down, starting with the neckline, and the ribbing is worked to make the neckband, and then the color work. There's a bit of short rows to raise the back. I used Japanese short rows, but any short row method can be used. So yeah, and it's also, the pattern doesn't say it's optional, but it probably can be optional because the neckline is so wide that you can't really notice the raised back so much. It's only annoying for me if I don't do short rows. Then when I'm about to wear the sweater, I don't know which one is front and back because they're both exactly the same. So I need some, I don't know why, I need some differentiation there. But yeah, and then it's worked with increases following a color work chart. And what's interesting about this sweater is that I'm also using little bubbles to create even more texture. And again, anyone's welcome to use whatever bubble technique they prefer. I was using the half double crochet bubble. And the pattern has description of that technique and a link to a video on how I did that for another project, but I'm still doing the same thing here. And yeah, so the chart, the pattern repeat is the same length for every size. Every size is worked from the same chart. But what's different for each chart is where they separate for sleeves. So for the smaller sizes, there will be more color work running into the body and the sleeves. For the bigger sizes, there will be less, but all sizes will have color work continue into the body and sleeves, because I am a fan of the color work that never ends. Hi, thank you so much for saying that you love my patterns and that you're working on Pagan Sky. Pagan Sky was my first color work pattern actually, and it's yeah, it's been amazing to do it and carry on designing color work sweaters from then on. So yeah, I hope I covered the construction and techniques. If there's any questions about construction and techniques, let me know. It's fairly simple. Once you separate the body and sleeves, there's a little bit of color work to finish off, and then it's just stocking it in the round and with a bit of twisted ribbing to finish without any shaping on the body. And the sleeves have a slight some decreases to taper towards the wrist, but it is very roomy. Sorry, I'm reading more questions. I can't wait for the new pattern that I spy behind you. Oh yeah, that one is probably going to, oh, I don't want to lie. It could be July. Yeah. There's quite a bit of work still to do, and I haven't decided if I will do it all over color work or just the yoke as usual. So decisions, and it's fingering weight, so it's taking a little bit longer than a lot of the other designs. And as usual, I forgot to mention that again, the charts come in two versions. The dark background with lighter contrast color, and for those who choose to work with lighter background with the dark contrast color, there is a chart for that as well, and links to access the larger versions of the chart, because all you really need to print off is the chart, and after you've started the color work until you separate for sleeves, you can just walk around with a little piece of paper and that's it. Cool. So I guess one more thing that I could talk about is how to modify the neckline. That isn't included in the pattern, silly me, but it's very, very simple, because if you're not a fan of wide necklines, such as me, you could start by provisionally casting on the neckline stitches, skipping the ribbing part and doing the color work straight, and then when you're happy with how it fits, you can pick up the provisional cast on stitches and work the ribbing in the opposite direction. And the interesting thing about this pattern is that the neckline ribbing, I don't know why I did that, I don't remember, but I had a good reason. Thank you for saying that you love the chart options. I didn't used to do that in my early patterns, but over time I have come to realize that it's been very helpful for people. So, and it doesn't take me much time, so I glad to hear confirmation of that. Yeah, what was I saying? I was saying that the ribbing, my goodness, I really wish I could remember why, but I had some reason. I did 2 purl, 1 twisted knit, and so it's a 3 stitch pattern repeat in the ribbing. And what that means for those who would like to modify the neckline to be a little bit closer to the neck is that you could make the neckline longer, or you could do some decreases, purling the 2 purl stitches together, and no one would notice that there are decreases, because it's just a section of purl that gets a little bit tighter. And that's awesome, because it's always hard to decrease in a ribbing pattern. Well, you have to come up with some fancy schmancy things to work, but this one will let you do that without any trouble. Yeah, and if you already know that you want a tighter neckline, you could start even with less stitches and increase to this 3x1 twisted rib as you work the neckband, and that way no more unpicking of provisional cast-ons at the end. So yeah, I have gone through all the things that I wanted to go through around, oh, there's a question. How can you work it without the bobble? New to knitting here. It's absolutely possible to skip the bobble. The bobble on the chart appears just as a contrast color stitch with a little blob that you can ignore and just work it in the contrast color, and it would look a little bit different, but it will look yeah, it's a completely an option. There's nothing rides on the bobble. It's just for bobble lovers. Yeah. Hope that answers the question. What else would be good for new knitters to know? So this has a really quite long sections of stitches in one color. As you can see here, I'm not going to count now, but there's like 9 or so, and probably 11 or 13 of the contrast color here, and throughout. So because I was going for that striky bald look, for newer knitters, that might mean that extra attention needs to be paid to not pull the floats on this side too tightly, and keep it loose so that it doesn't wriggle or bubble, or what's the word, I don't know, wrinkle, so that it doesn't wrinkle up, because then the yoke will be very different from the rest of the body. But other than that, it's, yeah, there's not really any crazy techniques, and if color work does not scare you, yeah, good one to do. And yeah, I think it's kind of a unique yoke. I haven't seen yokes like this too much around, so hopefully you get some heads turned and compliments on your sweater like I have when I've worn this before I gave it away. And yeah, I have a question. I love what you're wearing. Did you design it, pattern and yarn? Thank you so much. Yes, it's my design. It's called the Refreshing Tee, and I released it a couple of years ago in the summer. I knit it up in yarn I got from Knit Crate. I used to subscribe, and it was fingering weight merino with linen, so very summery. And I just used a couple of skeins to make this size too, but it's a top-down raglan half brioche, fairly easy. There's no short rows or anything scary like that. It's just a v-neck. But yeah, that the link to this pattern is in my not to this pattern, to my Ravelry store or my website, or Etsy is in my Instagram profile. And yeah, you can definitely find it there if you search for Refreshing Tee, because it's in a minty color, and that's what inspired the name. And I think I was dreaming of some minty ice cream when I was working this, because despite the fact that there's linen, I think it was a very hot summer and I was knitting it, and it was a little bit hot. But yeah, that's that. I just want to also give a little heads up that today is the day when we officially kick off the first ever Jeanette Knits Cal, and it's running on Ravelry, and there's over 50 projects already added. So all you gotta do is, if you're thinking of knitting either this or this, is just to go to the Ravelry forum through the link in my profile, and add your project to the list, and have a lot of fun with other like-minded tribe members, and we'll have prizes, and we'll have community behind you to support you. And yeah, this is a new experience for me, so I'm hoping that it works out well, and we can do it in the future. But so far so good, and I'm very happy to see people are getting their needles ready. Yeah, test knits don't count, but anything that's already a work in progress that you might need a little, help from the crowd to motivate to get it to the finish line, that also goes. So yeah, I hope you come and join. And in the meantime, before Wednesday, yeah, there's also a discount code to purchase patterns that is gonna run out in 3 days, and it's called Jeanette Knits 50th in capital letters or whatever, and that will get you 25% off any self-published pattern. Self-published patterns are the ones that in Ravelry show the source Jeanette Knits, as opposed to some magazine. The ones that are published by a magazine I do not own, or I have chosen not to republish as myself, so they are not available. But anything else, I mean, if you already have the pattern from Pom Pom or wherever, please come along to the Cal and join. But the discount applies to the self-published ones. Thank you so much for watching all the way through the end. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday and enjoy the spring and get a lot of knitting time. Thanks. Bye.